It's the Halloween season, and it's time to get spooky. Today, we are going to visit 8 titles that you need to revisit in 2024 to get your heart racing. Starting off with number 8, we have Dark Deception. I'm going to start by going on record saying I don't do well with these kinds of games. Most horror type games I can usually handle, but the feeling of constantly being chased, always on the run, it gets me on edge. This game definitely makes me feel that constantly. Made by Glowstick Entertainment, an indie developer, this game starts as what can be described as some kind of like horror game show. This woman tells you that you have promise and to collect pieces of a ring and bring them back to her. Sounds like a pretty simple concept, right? Well, you start out feeling like it's an average horror indie title, with some jump scares here and there and makes you feel a little creeped out. And then the real game starts. What can only be described as Pac-Man from hell, you quickly realize that this is more than just your average horror title. Basically, you have to run around this huge maze, collecting gems and avoiding these horror monkeys, which only purpose in life is to stalk the fuck out of you and kill you. They know where you are at all times, so your only hope to survive is to keep moving. Do not stop. If you see one, you turn around and run for your life. Oh, and did I mention there's more than one? Yeah, great. Not only do you have to survive them, but once you collect all the gems, which took me way longer than it probably should have because I kept dying, but now you have to get back to the start area, which is now surrounded by murder chef monkeys that are faster and deadlier than the originals. I can't. And that's only one level. There's a lot more to play with different enemies and unique levels. Even though I couldn't handle it, I highly recommend it. Up next at number 7 is Bendy and the Dark Revival. This is the second title of the Bendy series, with the third having been released earlier this year at the time of writing, and brings you on a scary adventure through the ink-filled studio of Bendy. You play as Audrey, an animator of the Bendy cartoon. She gets pulled in thanks to the creepy janitor that lures you in with false hope. Look at that face. Looks trustworthy, right?
Come find me, Audrey. Come find me, and I'll show you your purpose. I'll show you the truth.
This can't be real.
And now, we die.
What are you doing? Oh no.
The gameplay is pretty straightforward. You collect weapons and items along the way. There is a sort of stealth element implemented into the game where you can crouch and hide from enemies if you feel it necessary to avoid combat or save some health. You first encounter this guy that's part of the Butcher Gang, and these creepy little dudes always strike you when you least expect it. They can pop out of random areas, sometimes out of thin air to cause damage. They can even pop out of lockers that you're looking to loot. You have these regular enemies called Lost Ones that you will encounter most often. Some, however, will have a bit of a personality like this one that's looking for his lost drawings.
Is that you, Phil? I told you I'm not opening the door until you bring me my pictures. I drew them. I want them back.
Or this one named Porter, which is my favorite.
Can't you move?
Not an inch. Perhaps you could get me unstuck?
I'll see what I can do.
Things start to get really messed up once you encounter the Ink Demon. He will stalk you frequently. And when your screen changes color, it's time to hide or die. The atmosphere of this title really works, and the art style is beautiful and unique. If you're looking for a good title this Halloween to play and satisfy a scary game itch, this one I recommend. Next, we have Moons of Madness. Released in 2019, this title has major Lovecraftian vibes going on, which I believe was intended. It really throws you into the thick of it almost immediately, but then comes back down to reality for a short while anyway. The gameplay is very interactive, meaning you are encouraged to explore and see what you can interact with. You can make coffee and drink way more cups than a human should.
I made it last night.
Everyone is tired and isolated from human contact on Mars.
Pick up items, look at pictures and books, and even play with a toy rocket ship.
Communicating, which is technically my job. Kind of.
This isn't your typical survival horror game, being that they don't give you a plethora of weapons to defend yourself with or many abilities to unlock. The base you're on Mars, is taken over by these tentacle-like plant vines, and you need to figure out if it's real or if you're going insane. You keep having dreams and delusions of monsters trying to kill you, or are they real? There's a lot going on in this title, and everything gets really weird once you discover this cave and you start making orbs glow with your hand scar and staring at this little shop of horrors plant to keep it away from you. You gotta solve puzzles and figure out what reality is. At times, it does feel like there's too much going on, meaning that a lot of what's happening feels like it's never really explained and the story moves on. Maybe it's up to the player interpretation, I don't know. But nonetheless, this is a fun game if you're looking for a psychological horror title.
Imagine themselves as astronauts. The filth poured into their shoulders. Something you shall only dream.
At number 5, we have Cry of Fear. This is a weird one, as it's a game that was from 2013 that uses the Half-Life engine. If you've played it, you know exactly what this is, but for the uninitiated, this is a good one to play. The atmosphere and gameplay was somewhat groundbreaking for its time. Nowadays, the visuals aren't all that amazing, but you have to take yourself back to when this came out. The feeling of not knowing what is lurking around every corner will keep you on your toes. Early on, you get a knife and a phone, which can be used as a light or to make calls when necessary. Later, you start to get weapons like a Glock. That ammo for is scarce, so you have to use it sparingly. The enemies can range from zombies to these creepy dual-wielding baby things, or these other baby things that shoot spears out of their neck, or these little murder nurses that charge at you without remorse. The city-like setting is perfect for what this game has to offer, with encouraging exploration to find items and supplies. At one point, you run into these ghost ladies that will try to get you to, which is pretty morbid and honestly terrifying. One of the earlier bosses is this chainsaw guy named Sawyer? I don't know, Sawyer. He dies in one of the more accidentally comical ways I've ever seen. Without going into too much detail, and honestly not doing it enough justice, I'd recommend to just go and play it. It's free to play on Steam. Next, we are getting into more common territory with the original Dead Space. The remake of this title is absolutely amazing and deserves its own recognition, but today, we're just going to focus on what made this series what it is, with the original. Longtime fans of the series know that this isn't a title you mess around with. The gameplay is all about survival, and using ammo sparingly and knowing where to hit the enemies to take them out. You can't shoot them with the usual means by just opening fire. You have to dismember them with your plasma cutter. And, if you're not 100% sure they're dead, just curb stomp them into oblivion. You can upgrade your suit and weapons to add inventory space or add damage. The whole atmosphere of this game makes you feel on edge all the way through. Without playing it, watching us play can do it no justice. You never know when or what is going to come at you, and how many. Sometimes it's one, sometimes it's a whole room of necromorphs, or these creepy demon babies. The fights are always intense and epic, especially the boss battles later in the game. If you're not careful, you can die easier than watching Diddy's career spiral out of control. If you haven't played yet, pause this video now and go try it for yourself. It's worth every second. Next at number 3 is the amazing Resident Evil 7. It's been talked about time and time again, and is a welcome stray from the original Resident Evil formula. I feel like Resident Evil 6 left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths when it came out, so seeing this was a welcomed addition. Instead of the usual tank controls of old, you now have a first-person horror survival, which focuses on Ethan as he initially goes into the seemingly abandoned house to find his lost girlfriend, Mia, after receiving a message from her after missing for 3 years. He soon realizes, the hard way, that there's more going on than what initially was thought. Throughout the game, you spend most of your time either fighting or avoiding the Baker family, which are these creepy people who live out in the woods who seemingly are invincible to death, no matter what you throw at them. They're crazy strong and absolutely terrifying. The game does a good job at making you feel helpless. Like, even though you have guns, they don't feel like they do much of anything except slow them down. The whole atmosphere of this game makes you feel on edge, and honestly scared at all times. You never know what's going to happen next. You get a variety of weapons to defend yourself with, each having sparingly low ammo. I know it's planned, but when Jack Baker breaks through the wall to find you, scares the ever-living out of me. Every time. That is one of many instances that just make you jump back and panic. And if it's your first playthrough or your 50th, it's time to revisit the Baker family once again.
The hell out of dying.
At number 2, we have The Evil Within. Now, I know the sequel tends to get more limelight these days, but there is no denying that The Evil Within is a game that deserves more attention to this day. The premise that you're a cop that is thrown into an unreal world that feels real to them after hearing a high-pitched noise is like, okay, weird concept, but somehow it just works. Almost immediately, the game throws you down this rabbit hole of chaos and suffering, and the whole aura around the game is more stressful than horrifying. However, that doesn't mean you won't be scared. There's times in the game that will make you jump. Like, for example, when this spider lady thing named Laura pops out of nowhere. Especially wearing headphones, the noise it makes plus the look of it gets me every single time. Sorry in advance for those wearing headphones. Just be forewarned. Early on, you run into these infected zombie-looking people that are just normal people taken over by the plague going around. Kind of like COVID, except, you know, zombies. Much like our previous entry, even though you have guns, sometimes it feels like it's not enough. Like you have to burn the bodies alive most of the time to make sure it stays down, or else they will get right back up. You only can carry like 5 matches at a time, so sometimes you gotta burn a pile of bodies at once, which can be tricky. The bosses will get your blood pumping at times, and you will be stressing your way through trying to survive. Just give it a try. And at number 1, we have Alien Isolation. At the time of writing, this game is free to download on Prime Gaming, and can be played on Luna. So if you're not 100% sold, you can try it out there first. I will go as far and say that this game is a masterpiece when it comes to the horror genre. There just wasn't anything like it for its time, and still has never been replicated successfully. And for Alien fans, this scratched a long-lasting itch that many fans wanted for a long time. Within the first 20 minutes of the game, you are instantly put on edge. If you know anything about Alien, you know that the alien can come at you at any time, from anywhere. This game captures that feeling perfectly, because you never really know what you're going to run into around each corner. The whole atmosphere and gameplay style is very horror-centric, and done so in the best way possible. I know it sounds like I'm sending all my praise towards this title, but it was and is such an underrated horror game that more people need to experience it. You play as Ripley's daughter, and you are sent to a space station similar to that of the Nostromo station from the Alien movies. The ambient noise and sound effects, followed by well-timed music cues, really gets your heart racing. At first, you'll encounter human enemies that try to mislead you on what you will encounter later. One of the main bad guys in this game are going to be these androids, which do not mess around at all. They'll kill you for simply wafting a fart in their general direction. Their no-nonsense protocol makes avoiding them necessary at all costs, because even though you get some weapons in the game, most of them aren't that effective. And that's one thing this game does, is make you feel practically helpless. Of course, when you first encounter the alien, it's a crap your pants moment, because now you got this hovering around you with everything else. Right away, it isn't immediately targeting you, but can still kill you if you're too loud or walk under its nasty drool. Later, at a certain part of the game, the alien starts to actively hunt you down and will do so for almost the entirety of the game. Its adaptive AI can learn what you do and learns new ways to kill you, which is horrifying in itself. On consoles, they can hear you breathing if you have a mic plugged in. That's how intense this game is. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to see more, make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below, what is your favorite horror game? Which one should I have added? Let me know down below, and I will see you next time.